And I now like to introduce our speaker, Pixie, a longtime member, very active member in our spiritual community. She always had a love for nature and for social justice, as reflected in her work as an environmental lawyer and a biologist. And now she's active in beekeeping, gardening, as a mother, and passionate about life and nature and everything around. And our musician, Lawrence Kirby, is a very talented musician, very creative, a wonderful voice, great barbecue chef, and he has a passion to sing us this wonderful song. So we're in for a treat. So go ahead, Lawrence, and give us one of your beautiful songs. You're muted, Lawrence.
Thank you. The title of this song is Awesomely. The mountains. Oh, the seas. The wind. The trees. Oh, the creatures down below. The sky, oh, the clouds, the wind, the canyons, oh, the caves, oh, the deep, the sky, the trees. Oh, the light, oh, the light, oh, the light, all light. The life of we, the life of I, the life you are. What can I tell you? 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 Now all your dreams are fulfilled. I am that one. I am that one. am that one. I am that one. That one. That one. That one. That one.
Thank you, Lawrence. A beautiful way to lead into our meditation today. So I invite you now to relax, feeling supported by your chair or wherever you are sitting, knowing that the earth is supporting you, holding you up. Breathe in a deep breath, bringing in pure white light, sparkling white light, and breathing out stale air and whatever it is you don't need anymore. Breathe in life and breathe out what doesn't work anymore for you. And take in another cleansing breath and release. And when you feel ready, you can close your eyes or simply gaze downward. Focus on your breath as you feel any tension or stress in your head and neck soften and flow down your arms and out your fingertips. Feel your chest and shoulders soften as any tension flows out on your breath. As you continue to breathe, feel your belly and your hips soften, and any tension or stress flow out through your legs and into the earth through the bottoms of your feet. And allow any tension or stress that might be remaining in your legs, knees or ankles, or even your feet to drain away through the bottoms of your feet. Stay with your breath and imagine walking beside the ocean on a warm, warm summer day. Dipping your feet into the water, you find the water warm and inviting, so you walk in. In the distance, you notice a pod of orcas playing and leaping in and out of the water. You wade into the water deeper, and feeling the warm ocean water on your skin, you allow yourself to float easily in the water. Feeling relaxed in the pleasantly warm water, you gently submerge your whole body underwater and discover how easily and effortlessly you can breathe in this calming space, and how gracefully you are gliding underwater, popping up every few moments to see other orcas around you, greeting you and inviting you to play. So you join them, cavorting through the waves, splashing freely in this nurturing environment. You are calm and centered, yet exhilarated as you feel what it is like to be an orca, communicating playfully with other orcas. You find yourself delightfully riding a huge wave and looking up towards the sky, you notice an eagle flying overhead. As you breach out of the water, you gently begin to take flight, noticing how easily you can float on currents of warm, upwardly moving air, breathing gently. With utter freedom and delight, you glide over the treetops, over fields and streams. You notice how tiny everything looks from your new vantage point. Oh, what a feeling. You stop for a rest atop a huge tree next to the beach, and you notice some children playing in the water and others building sandcastles in the sand. Feeling a strange but strong sense of belonging and connection with these children, you swoop down and land on a large rock. Settling on the rock, you stretch your arms as the children run towards you and greet you. Standing up, you feel your human body again. Oh, the same feelings of freedom, delight, and connection fill your entire being. You know on a deep level that you are one with all living things, one with the divine. And as you slowly return to this world, to this third dimension, you take a deep breath and come back and join us here. Sending great love and thanks to Lawrence, who provided that musical journey for us to become orcas, eagles, and back to human beings, connected to all life. Well, good morning, everyone. I was originally going to give this talk on Earth Day, but we had a special service from Unity Canada that day. So now I'm doing it today. On Earth Day, though, which was on April 22nd, I celebrated that day working in my community garden. Most of the afternoon and evening I was there. And in my opinion, spending one day for Earth Day is simply not enough. We need to take time every day honoring and listening to nature and assessing how we are caring for our Mother Earth and, as importantly, for each other. We can go to the next slide, Angelica. Thank you. There we have Gaia, the Mother Earth. Our beautiful Gaia, our Mother Earth, feeds us, gives us shelter and clothing, provides our medicines, processes and detoxifies our wastes, thrills us with her wonderful natural music, and embraces us in her astounding natural beauty. Several years ago, I attended a 4-day workshop called The Work That Reconnects, led by Joanna Macy, an environmentalist who was at that time somewhere in her 80s. Joanna is also a teacher of Buddhist philosophy and systems theory and deep ecology. Joanna's workshop consisted of a number of experiential exercises and sacred practices and ceremonies that are designed to reconnect our lives and our world. And this is really important now because more and more people are suffering from what has come to be known as eco-anxiety, anxiousness over climate change. For a while, we didn't really know what to expect from climate change, but after last summer here in British Columbia and all over the planet, we saw out of control wildfires that wiped out villages and communities and destroyed businesses. We saw flooding in the fall, which did the same. And we know that this is happening now. And flowing from these eco disasters are personal, emotional, and mental suffering that we go through. We're feeling disconnected from the pandemic, and now all of this happening too. And so today, I'm going to share with you some of the magic healing of those practices that I learned during Joanna Macy's workshop called The Work That Reconnects. And these exercises and ceremonies are designed to reconnect us to our world and to our lives. I have to say that those practices took me from a place of despair about climate change, the destruction of the environment, war, poverty, and injustice, into a deep healing, and gave me the strength and the courage to continue in my work on environmental issues and with Indigenous people under a government which regarded both individual people, especially Indigenous people, and the environment and protecting the environment as impediments to our country's progress. That was a really difficult time, but these practices kept me grounded and kept me feeling positive and hopeful for the future. Joanna opened the Work That Reconnects workshop with a very dire prediction for the future of our planet and all life upon it. Sort of like what we're hearing these days from the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that keeps reminding us we only have a few years left to stop the production of greenhouse gases and such as carbon dioxide, which are really throwing us and our planet into a state of chaos. And despite Joanna's dire prediction for the future at the workshop, she reassured us that there is hope, that we can and we must act to ensure a livable world, that we can meet our daily needs without destroying our life support system here on Earth. There's no doubt that we have the technical knowledge to do it. We have the know-how and the resources to grow and distribute sufficient food and ensure that everyone has a supply of clean drinking water, and to generate the energy that we require through alternatives to fossil fuels such as wind, hydrogen, geothermal, solar, and tidal. And on top of that, we have a fabulous communication network through social media to pass this information along and share all the knowledge that we have. So, we can choose life. Choosing life to me means building a life-sustaining society, one to replace our current industrial growth society. A life-sustaining society, according to the World Watch Institute, is one that satisfies the people's needs without jeopardizing the capacity of future generations to meet their needs. And we can do this by operating within the carrying capacity of both our regional and global ecological life support systems. This means we must base our planning decisions for our life on a careful assessment of the natural resources that we consume, the wastes we produce, and the capacity of the natural environment to rebalance itself and recover. If there is to be a livable future for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren, it will be because we have managed to make the transition from an industrial growth society to a life-sustaining society, and do it quickly. We're in the midst of that transition right now. This is an ecological revolution. In the workshop that Joanna put on for us, we called it the Great Turning. The Great Turning. And one of the exercises we did during that workshop reassured me that we will succeed in making this transition. This exercise was a dialogue between people alive on Earth today and people living here 7 generations from now. And this is how we did it. Half of the workshop participants represented people alive today on the planet. Those people formed a circle of ancestors. And inside that circle, the other half of the participants, representing people 7 generations in the future, formed an inner circle and faced the ancestors. The individuals of the future generation asked the ancestor standing opposite to them to describe what it was like to live through and before the Great Turning. The ancestor stories, as you might imagine, began with recounting the devastating effects of climate change, like famines, floods, wildfires, wars, genocide, pandemic illnesses, and other kinds of diseases resulting from unequal distribution of food, unequal distribution and sharing of medicines, seeds, and other resources, plus the industrialized agricultural processes. All of these effects, of course, exacerbated by discrimination, intolerance, and persecution based on race, culture, religion, and gender. The ancestors' stories of the Great Turning also recounted how people across the globe set aside their judgments, fears, and differences and worked together to help one another and to restore the natural environment. When this part of the exercise was finished, the folks in the ancestors' circle took 7 steps to the right, and each faced a new person from the future. Then each ancestor asked the individual from the future facing them to please describe what life on Earth is like in a life-sustaining society. Well, their stories described a paradise on earth. No wars, an abundance of clean drinking water, healthy organic food produced on small farms, clean lakes, streams, and rivers teeming with fish, clean air, free education and health care for everyone, and a universal basic income, livable income for everyone. All world citizens enjoyed a comfortable and healthy lifestyle. This, my friends, was a most profound and inspiring exercise because we weren't triggered or told to say this. This just flowed out of us when we were in a very relaxed meditative state. If this intergenerational dialogue exercise is even remotely predictive, and I believe it is, future generations will look back at this moment in history as an epochal revolution. While the agricultural revolution took place over centuries and the industrial revolution took a few generations to manifest, this ecological revolution must happen within the next few years. More importantly, it has to be super comprehensive, involving not only our political, social, economic, and justice systems, but also our own personal habits and values that lie at the roots of and feed into these larger societal systems. This ecological revolution we call the Great Turning is a response to what we know and feel is happening to Mother Earth and all her beings right now. The response consists of both the perception of danger and the means to act. It is our natural instinct to respond to danger. For example, we leap in front and away from the path of an oncoming car, or we dash into a burning building to save a child. This is response to danger. The ability to respond has been an essential feature of life throughout our evolution, as it has allowed us to adapt to new changes and develop new skills and abilities. Joanna Macy explained this response in terms of systems theory in this way. She said, response to danger is a function of feedback, the information circuit that connects perception to action. An appropriate response depends on an unblocked feedback loop. But as we later experienced in another exercise at that workshop, the dangers now facing us and our planet are so pervasive and so painful to look at that our hearts and minds can become numb. This psychic numbing deadens our response. In short, our feedback loop is blocked, resulting in apathy. The word apathy comes from the Greek word apatheia, which literally means non-suffering. Apathy, then, is the inability or refusal to suffer pain. In that exercise, designed to unblock our feedback loop, we formed smaller groups. Each participant took a turn to act out and express his or her feelings of despair, fear, rage, triggered by very specific instances of loss, very personal instances of loss, environmental destruction, social or economic injustice, or violence or abuse, and how they felt powerless to do anything about it. Other members of the small group validated those feelings. Many tears were shed during this exercise, but we were blessed to have a safe place to be vulnerable and raw with each other. This exercise showed us that the pain we feel is humongous. It is the pain for our world and all its living beings that we experience. And this is not surprising because we are one with all life on earth. We know this from our unity teachings, and these teachings have been corroborated by science through quantum physics and string theory. The good news is that our awareness of the nature of our relationship with our world, our oneness with all life, that awareness is which frees us from the psychic numbing and allows us to honor our pain and move beyond it. We learned in the discussions that followed that exercise that our pain is the price that we pay for being conscious in a threatened and suffering world. Not only is this natural, it is an absolutely necessary part of our collective healing. Pain is a warning signal designed to trigger us into corrective or remedial action. The real problem is not our pain. The real problem is that we repress our pain. And the real gift of this exercise was expressing our fear, our despair, our rage, and that it allowed us to honor our pain for the world. And this honoring and reconciling with the pain served as a gateway into deep participation in the self-healing of our world. It was plain for all of us to see that the relationship with our earth, with our oneness, our connectedness with all life, that's what frees us from psychic numbing and allows us to honor our pain and move beyond it into healing. We are currently experiencing the Great Turning, like right now it's happening. In the workshop, we identified 3 areas where the Great Turning is manifesting across our planet at the time. The first area was in our political and legal actions to slow down damage to the earth and its beings, such as documenting the ecological and health effects of fossil fuel extraction and combustion, and some of the legislation that's being enacted all over the world to limit the emission of greenhouse gases, and the development of plans to switch to alternative fuels. Also, whistleblowing on illegal and unethical corporate practices and government activities. These features were not available until we had social media. So the first area of political and legal actions, that is an area where we can see the Great Turning working right now. The second area where we see this being manifested is the structural causes of the global crisis, so that we can understand the dynamics behind the industrial growth society. And it will enable us to develop alternative structures that support a life-sustaining society. And these lie in our justice system, for example, switching to conflict resolution, mediation, and restorative justice to replace costly trials with winners and losers. And also in the area of housing. Right now, we are facing a housing crisis, and we're seeing a growing movement towards collaborative living communities such as co-housing, and eco-villages, where single people, families, and seniors live together in a community, caring for each other. And these communities replace lonely nursing homes and isolated apartment living. A third area where we are seeing the great turning happening now is in a shift in our perception of reality. A spiritual awakening and cognitive revolution is happening, which exposes the false notion that we are separate and isolated beings, all in competition with each other for scarce resources, and instead shows us our oneness with and our interdependence on all life on earth. With this shift in perception, we embrace the sacredness of life itself. Some examples of this shift are manifesting right now as the resurgence of shamanic traditions, which we see more of as we go deeper into the reconciliation with Indigenous peoples, and they share their shamanic traditions and wisdom with us. And these traditions enable us to deeply experience our identity with the earth and other species. Another one is the current response we're seeing to the suffering of Ukrainian refugees. And all of these areas, the political and social, the housing, and the perception of reality, all these areas work synergetically so that the work that we do in any one of these areas reinforces the work that we do in all the others. The realizations we experience in spiritual awakening save us from falling into either panic or paralysis as we go through the great turning. This is because spiritual awareness helps us resist sticking our heads in the sand and enable us to face the chaos flowing from the collapse of the financial and other institutions at the heart of the industrial growth society. Spiritual awareness also helps us resist the temptation to turn on each other, finding scapegoats, such as politicians and corporate CEOs, for venting our fear and our rage. Spiritual awareness allows us to see the wholeness and sacredness of life so we can stay alert and be ready and sensitive to help each other survive chaos in rough times. Our spiritual wisdom tells us we must join hands, all of us, to find the ways the earth self-heals and rebalances herself. As a living being, Earth and all her ecosystems strive for balance, for equilibrium, just like we do in our lives. Looking at our world through a spiritual lens, we discover that the chaos, and within it, within that chaos, lies the seeds for the future. For out of that chaos, balance will reestablish and divine order will reemerge. As part of that rebalancing, we will find new and better ways of living together, where the natural environment and all the people on earth are respected and cared for as part of a vibrant and sustainable community. At a conference on environmental law I attended a few years ago, Dr. David Suzuki was our guest speaker, and he began his after-dinner talk with the following remarks. If we and planet Earth are going to survive the next 50 years, human beings must stop the destruction of the Earth's natural habitat in the name of progress and economic growth. We must say no to uncontrolled growth and development. We don't need more shopping centers, big box stores, car dealerships. We need to preserve the remaining natural environments on the planet for wildlife and for the enjoyment of future generations. Although I found myself nodding my head in agreement with Dr. Suzuki, I had a problem with the solution he was recommending: stop growth and expansion. This has been the message of environmentalists since Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring back in the 1960s. And yet here we are, over 60 years later, facing even greater environmental degradation. And growth and expansion continue to grow at an ever alarming rate. As I listened to Dr. Suzuki, I was wondering if stopping growth and expansion was even possible. I remembered hearing this at a Unity workshop. We cannot solve a problem at the level of the problem. Rather, we need to seek a solution at a higher level, applying universal laws. At that moment, I tried to recall some of those universal laws or truths as I listened to the rest of Dr. Suzuki's talk. And then it hit me. Continual growth and expansion is what our universe has been doing since forever. Outward growth and expansion is the physical manifestation of the masculine expression of the divine mind. And there's no way we can stop that. But what we can do is to redirect the flow or direction of this creative and expansive energy. We can direct it towards our inner world, our inner growth, rather than outward into the external environment. We can channel that energy towards our inner growth, our self-awareness, and expanding our consciousness. The creative energy still flows. It still expands. Only the direction changes. What would this look like in our physical world? What changes might we see if we focused our energy on inner growth and consciousness expansion? Well, for starters, we might expect to see compassionate, respectful, and caring behaviors fueled by love, replacing destructive behaviors fueled by fear. Success would no longer be measured by how much money or how many possessions we manage to accumulate, but instead in terms of improvements in social justice, equitable distribution of wealth and resources, greater educational and career opportunities for children and young adults throughout the world, improved health and quality of life, increases in biodiversity, and enhanced quality of our natural environment. We would realize that working for the benefit of the earth and all her beings is not a way to get rich, it's a way to be rich. Everywhere we look in the world these days, we can see ordinary people like us, willing to confront despair, power, and immeasurable odds in order to restore some semblance of grace, justice, and beauty in this world. We see beauty everywhere. Some examples are people sponsoring Ukrainian refugees. Others, like the work of Joanna Macy, the work that reconnects, the efforts of the environmental and anti-poverty organizations, and the proliferation of community gardens and reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. There's no doubt that the Great Turning is well underway. This ecological revolution will be the largest movement the world has ever seen. Rather than seeking control, It seeks connection. Rather than establishing dominance and control, it strives to disperse concentrations of power into the hands of the people. Its clout resides in ideas, not in force. And best of all, it is giving hope and meaning to billions of people around the world. Building a life-sustaining society that we're heading for is not without growth, but there will be a change in the direction of that growth. The direction of growth will be inward rather than outward. And in contrast to the growth that characterized the industrial growth society and brought about problems like climate change and the acidification of our oceans. This change in the direction of growth reflects the natural law that states that for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and that the only constant in the universe is change, and that living systems are constantly seeking a state of balance, a state of equilibrium. And so, following a period of outward expansion, there is a period of inner expansion. The big question facing us now is, how are we going to manage this transition, this great turning? Those who try to cling to the structures of the industrial growth society and resist inner growth and spiritual awakening will find themselves swimming against the current. And their lives will become a struggle if they aren't already. A wiser approach is to focus our energy and intention on inner growth and expansion of our consciousness through prayer, meditation, yoga, perhaps some shamanic practices that connect us with the earth and other species. The energy of life will carry us along with it. We can choose a rough or a smooth ride. Mother Earth will heal herself because, as a living system, she's constantly seeking balance, equilibrium. She will achieve that balance with or without our help. This whole process of the great turning will be easier for all beings if we realize how deeply connected we humans are to all other life forms. And if we act collaboratively and compassionately with all of them. This just might be the life purpose that we have been searching for. My prayer for you this week is that you will deepen your connection with the natural world and with each other, experiencing oneness with Mother Earth and all her beings. And as you allow these ideas to enter into your consciousness, let's listen to Lawrence sing his own composition, Whose Side You On? Lawrence?
Whose side you on when the sun comes over the mountains? And whose side you on when the dew is all dried up and gone? And whose side you on when the afternoon winds are blowing? And whose side When the 11 o'clock news is done showing, children of tomorrow, don't you worry. First time's not in a hurry, and after all's been said and done, we'll all burn as brightly as the sun. Whose side you on? Now that the fighting has long been over, and whose side you on? When there's no one looking over your shoulders, and whose side you on? Well, the moon and the tides are shifting, and whose side you on? Well, you lay your mind to drifting. Children of tomorrow, don't you worry. First time's not in a hurry, and after all's been said and done, we'll all burn as brightly as the sun. Whose side you on? When all you've left is here and now, and whose side you on? Waiting for the world to come around, and whose side you on? When joy could be the order of the day, and whose side you on? Wishing the fear and the world away. Children of today, there are no problems. God in her wisdom has not solved them, and after all's been said and done, we'll all burn as brightly as the sun.
Wow. Thank you so much, Lawrence. That was so awesome. One of my favorite songs. This is such a wonderful, heartwarming, and voice. Oh, she's so amazing. And thank you so much, Pixie, for your wisdom and your inspiration, for your practical message. It's so important for us to hear this message and to do the inner work. Thank you.